Cullen goes live in 2 minutes. Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello there. Got an email in from Margie already. Wouldn't it be cool if Rand Paul lit up a joint on stage tonight? Yeah. So are they all in it tonight? I mean, how there's not a junior varsity thing? There's going to be all those guys back up on stage? Oh, God almighty. Well, it might be fun since some of them are. Donald is now coming from behind, and it's like watching a train wreck. I mean, why even? I don't wanna. I'm gonna watch the World Series. Oh, speaking of that, geez, did you see that meltdown on the World Series? Huh? Couldn't happen to nicer people. I was so glad it was on Fox. Wow. I loved it. You're watching the World Series and all of a sudden, bang, it's gone. It's gone. And oh God, it was gone for a long time, it seems to me. And then it came back. It was hard to know. They went to, if you hadn't seen it, all of a sudden the picture's gone, the audio's gone, blah, blah, blah. A thing comes up, one of those, Fox, we're experiencing some technical difficulties. And I'm immediately more engaged than I was even before, because that's more exciting. I thought, terrorist attack. You know, what greater thing to do than interrupt? Remember when in the Super Bowl, when the stadium lights went out? And that was, again, the same kind of thing. When you mess with one of the iconic sports events, then you think that would be a way for a hacker. So you start immediately wondering if it's that kind of thing. Of course, it apparently was not. It was just some, now I'm sure, unemployed technician. Oh, jeez. Who screwed something up. Didn't plug something in but it took so long to figure out how they get back on, and then they went off again. And what they did is they switched over to an entirely different feed so all of a sudden the game is back, but you're not watching it's the global feed or something with different guys. And then that stops and they go to the Los Angeles Fox station where they rousted 3 hapless men looked like practically out of bed or something to stand there and try to keep us company while they figured out what to do. And it was funny. I felt sorry for the three hapless men because obviously they were told, just get out there and talk, just talk. And one of them even at one point sort of plaintively said, I hope Jack Buck is there. Jack. No, of course he wasn't. And it was wonderful. It was kind of meltdown you see on maybe a local station, but you don't see a meltdown like that on a live network show, especially the World Series. I loved it. It made my day. It really did. Funny as hell. They kept talking about the truck. And then I took to Twitter thinking, I bet Twitter's going nuts. I bet there's some funny stuff here. And there really wasn't. There wasn't much of anything. There were at least where I was looking. I must have been looking in the wrong place, but I did love it. And it turned out to be a hell of a game if you gave a damn, and I don't. But it went 14 innings. And not that I stayed up and watched it, but it's a good game. There was excitement on the field, off the field, in between the field. It was black, it was white, it was on, it was off. It was quite a show. And there's another thing. There's a story that's come out of last night that I want to talk about because there are two conflicting accounts that I have read this morning. I have read that the starting pitcher for the Royals, who did end up winning this game, the starting pitcher for the Royals, starting his first World Series game, his father died yesterday afternoon in the Dominican Republic. And in, I think, our local paper, and I think another paper I saw today, they said that he was told on the way to the ball field that he stoically warmed up and took to the mound and did his job with a heavy heart. But that turns out not to be true, according to another account. And the other account is so specific that I think the other account is obviously the true one. What happened is his wife, the pitcher's wife, gets the call from the Dominican Republic and calls the general manager of the Royals and says, his dad's dead. Don't let him know. Don't tell him. Let him pitch the game. That's a tough call. That's a tough call. And then there was concern that, of course, the news media would get involved, that this pitcher often goes into the clubhouse in between innings, and if there was a TV on or something, he would hear it. And so they went so far as to talk to to Fox and the people that were going to be televising intermittently the game, and told them, don't say a word, please. So the odd thing was, and this is the real story, I think these other papers are wrong. This young guy goes to the mound, pitches in his first World Series game, pitched, I believe, 6 or 7 innings, did okay, and he didn't know. But his manager knew. There were some people on the team that knew. There were people watching. People in the booth knew. And can you imagine that after it's done, and here's what the story I believe to be the true story is, when he was taken out of the game, I believe in the 7th inning. His wife was right there. She had come to the stadium and she took him and they went into the manager's office and he was told. So I can't even begin to imagine the emotion. For one thing, for his father, too, to be cheated out of seeing his son pitch that game. This is one of those classic cases of a poor kid in the Dominican Republic, and he makes it, and his dad was all of 63 years old, but he had a heart condition, and he died. So this poor guy goes from elation to total devastation. Is that the right call? You don't tell him? I think it was. And anyway, it was his wife who made the call, and maybe his mother, I don't know. But for the Royals who won that first game, it put a real damper on things, let me tell you. While they were inclined, of course, to cheer when they did the, walk-off run and won the game in the 14th, they went back to this sad clubhouse. So, sort of a real human interest story, and my heart goes out to everybody. Life's tough. Life is tough. So guess what I was doing at 3:30 this morning? I was reading about Iggy Pop. Now, that's not a good way for me to start the day or to try to get back to sleep or whatever the hell it was I was doing. But I did wake up at about 3:15, and so wide awake it was a joke. I mean, it was like I could have taken an SAT test and probably scored a perfect score. I was just zzz, and I have no idea why. So I was looking through my email, and one of you guys, Nikolai, in fact, had sent me an article that you thought might be of interest to me, given my history with Iggy Pop. And Nikolai said, I thought you might find this story about Mr. Pop interesting, especially the opening sentence. And it was very interesting. I read the whole thing. But here's the opening sentence, and it's the opening sentence written by a woman named Elizabeth Renzetti of the Globe and Mail. That's Canadian newspaper, I believe, yes. Here it is. I have a soft spot for Iggy Pop, partly because I interviewed him once, and he was the soul of charm and erudition, like a particularly smart music professor who just happened to be wearing leather pants and eyeliner. Well, geez, Elizabeth Renzetti. I don't know, babe, what you had that I didn't have, but all he did to me was call me babe and treat me with absolute contempt. Music professor, soul of charm. Ha! Ha! Jeez, he traumatized me. How many years later is it now? It's 40 years later. I'm still having nightmares. But there it is, Mr. Pop. And it turns out, it's interesting, this story is about how Mr. Pop has to scramble to make money these days because of what's going on in the music biz. And he even gave a lecture for the BBC called Free Music in a Capitalist Society. And he says this, and I don't see how you can argue with him, quoting Iggy, "The cat is out of the bag, and the new electronic devices, which estrange people from their morals, also make it easier to steal music than to pay for it. make it easier to steal music than pay for it. And he says that people, he said if he had to live off simply the royalties that he does get now, he said he'd have to be tending bar between sets. A guy in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, an iconic son of a bitch. And that is something. So anyway, I read that article at 3:30 and found it interesting and was amazingly sort of totally okay with thinking about Iggy at 3:30. It didn't upset me. And I did end up being able to go back to bed just a little bit, I think. Today, by the way, America is setting a record. I don't know if you're aware of this. The fact that Barack Obama woke up today marks a major historical milestone. It's the longest period in American history that a president, U.S. president, has not died in office. We've gone the longest period in American history that a president hasn't died in office, the last president to die in office being John Fitzgerald Kennedy. And that is now 18,967 days ago. So, I don't know if that's of any interest to anybody, just one of those facts. Chris writes about last night's pitcher. Do you know that the pitcher that lost his father last night before the game played for the Pirates? No. Oh, my. He was the starting pitcher in the one-and-done playoff game for us last year against San Francisco. Edison Volquez. Yeah. Poor guy. Well, okay. So that damn debate is tonight. And, you know, it might be entertaining. It's on the economy, which will be particularly annoying to me, listening to these dimwits and numbskulls and trickle-downists and capitalist apologists talk about what they would do to further destroy the American economy. I just don't. I'm not looking forward to it, but so I think I'll flit in between it and the game. But speaking of the debate, we now know that there's a different sort of different feel to it since Dr. Ben Carson has surged ahead. If you look at the polls, it is mind-blowing. It is mind-blowing who Republicans are putting out there in the front. I mean, maybe because it's a year before the election, they don't feel the need to truly be totally sober about their choices. But even so, it's pretty damn extraordinary. So something's going to happen to us now that Carson has gotten into the lead. We are going to be forced to learn more about him than we want to know. And one of the things we're going to know about him, just sort of like what happened with Mitt Romney last time around, is that he hails from a religion that is not well understood by most Americans. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to get very much educated, I don't know about very much, but somewhat educated, about Seventh-day Adventists. You know anything about them? Well, I'll tell you what. I'm not making fun of anybody's religion. And in fact, the Seventh-day Adventists and I have something in common. They, unlike most Christians, do subscribe to the same definition of the Sabbath that Jews do, which is that the Sabbath is a Saturday. It's not a Sunday, and that it starts at sundown on Friday night and ends at sundown on Saturday. And that's what Seventh-day Adventists, that's how they mark the Sabbath, not on Sundays. But I guess it's like the Mormonism. It's like the Church of Latter-day Saints. It wasn't even around till the 19th century. This is a very new church, and it grew out of what was known as, see if you learn this in history, the Great Disappointment. Yes. Now, a lot of things in history could be labeled the Great Disappointment, God knows. I mean, you could, but this is a specific disappointment. And the disappointment was that a Baptist preacher who's got my brother's name, William Miller, who was another William Miller that actually was figured in a presidential political race. Anybody? William Miller was on the ticket in my lifetime of a major party in a national election. You know who he was? Well, some of you are busily looking it up, I suppose. See, that's no fun anymore. You can't chat. It's just like everybody goes, ah! I'll save you the trouble. William Miller was the I hope I'm right, was the vice presidential candidate of Barry Goldwater. Look it up. Okay, so William Miller, this Baptist preacher, he was sitting down with the Bible and doing some calculations, and he figured it out. This is in upstate New York. He said, aha, I have it, Eureka. Jesus is coming back on October 22nd, 1844. He figured it out to the day. Jesus is coming home. October 22nd, 1844. Well, as Paul Harvey used to say, you know the rest of the story. Jesus didn't show. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the Great Disappointment. Somehow all those disappointed Baptists decided to become Seventh-day Adventists. And they're now waiting patiently for the second coming, and it says here, for the end of the world. Seems a little silly if you're alive to be sitting around spending your time waiting for the end of the world. Seems a little crazy to me, but what do I know? Also says a lot of Seventh-day Adventists are vegetarians. I don't know if what's his name is. And there's only a little more than 1 million of them in the United States, or in North America, and 18 million around the world. So it's interesting. So something that came out of upstate New York has more followers outside of the United States than in. So Dr. Carson, by the way, a group of Baptists wrote in protest of his visit to a pastor's conference in Ohio because they don't cotton to this Seventh-day Adventist crap. And here's part of what they wrote, these Baptists, about the Seventh-day Adventists. Their official theology denies the doctrine of hell. Apparently a great sin. Denies the doctrine of hell in favor of annihilation. What? And believes that those who worship on Sunday will bear the mark of the beast. Okay, so mostly they got their shorts in a twist because the Seventh-day Adventists don't have Sunday. They do Saturday, and they say people who do Sunday are going straight to hell or something. But what does that mean? Their official theology denies the doctrine of hell in favor of annihilation. Well, I mean, if you ask me, okay, you can have one or the other. You can have hell or you can have annihilation. I mean, it really doesn't matter at that point, does it? Who's going to get all upset about, oh, you don't believe in hell, but you will believe in annihilation? It's all the same thing, and it's no fun either way. So I don't know. I love this absurdity. I just love it. Man, faith is something. Anyway, so Carson apparently really got religion when he stabbed a friend and was kept from being a murderer because the blade hit the guy's belt buckle. And so Carson realized that he'd come close to sort of having his life end as well, and he got religion. So there, I'm already telling you. Now you maybe know more about Seventh-day Adventists than you ever did. It's weird, religions and Christians, and the difference in religions, and how, a Jew like me doesn't have a clue. I made a terrible mistake once when I went over to Israel, and I wanted to bring a gift back to the woman who was taking care of my dog and cat. And she was a very serious Jehovah's Witness. So there's a whole other group that a lot of people, we make fun of or we don't know, but clearly lived her faith. And so I thought, gee, she's so religious, and here I am in Jerusalem. Let me find something just perfect for her that she'll cherish. And so I got a cross that was made out of the same kind of wood that they say the cross Jesus was crucified on was made of. You don't know. I could be an, idiot tourist too. And then I carried it into the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where I was standing like right at the spot where supposedly Jesus arose, was resurrected. And so I had that there, and when I came back, I gave it to her, and I said, so here, this was right. I held it there at the church and blah, blah, blah. And she practically recoiled. Oh, whoops. She practically recoiled. And then she explained to me something about Jehovah's Witnesses don't get into the cross stuff at all. They're not in to the fact that Jesus was crucified and suffered. They don't like to see that, this is what she told me, as the emblematic of their faith, this torture, this blood, this awful stuff. And I sort of understand. I understand that. I do think it's weird that, you go into a church and there's a writhing, tortured human being lying, that you're. So, Jehovah's Witnesses don't want to see that, and they don't want to think about that. So that's what I found out. So, there's all these different, and then, Christians will kill Christians over stuff like this. Just like Muslims are killing Muslims over, hey, so after Muhammad died, or after this one went, his nephew, once removed, did not become the head. My God, people are, we're nuts. We're nuts. Okay, so I got to talk about this video, this school thing. Did you see it? All right. We've all seen it, right? We've seen it. This cop taken down this girl who was sitting in her, little chair desk thing in algebra class. And he flips her out, and the next part is the part that really blows me away. Just sort of, at first it said she was not hurt. Now I'm hearing that her arm is in bad shape or something. I don't know. He just sort of like flung her. She like sliding out of frame. Okay, so everybody's saying this is an outrage and a obviously unnecessary, excessive, blah, 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 blah. All that's true. But you know what? I have a question. I do. And this is sort of politically incorrect in every way. My question is this. Let's say you're a teacher and you're trying to teach a class. And there's a student who is actively flouting your authority by taking out her phone and doing whatever she's doing on her phone. You say to her, put the phone away. She refuses. Okay, you're the teacher. What the hell do you... I mean, stop and think. If you're going to be the authority figure in the room and recognized as such, can you allow, I'm asking, a student to openly just pretend like you're not there? So I, as the teacher, would suggest that that is intolerable because it places me in a position of losing control of my class, which is not something I want to do because then I can't do my job. So this happened to this teacher, and the teacher then calls an administrator. The administrator comes in and says to the kid, put the phone away. She does not. Okay, so then they call the cop, and the cop obviously so what is the help me here. What do you do? What do you do? See, I look back in my own experience, and this shows the difference between the good old days and now. No one in my experience in school ever would have so brazenly refused to, well, first of all, you wouldn't have a phone. You wouldn't have anything, but they'd put the phone away. I mean, you would just do that. So if they don't, what is it you're supposed to do? You can't remove her. She's not moving. She was asked to stand up. She wouldn't stand. So she's just sitting there doing. What do you do? No one's answered that question for me. What do you do? I mean, obviously what he did is way, 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 way over. Although I vaguely understand it, frankly. I'd be pissed. I would be pissed. Put your phone away. And some little friggin' twerp not listening to me. I would be enraged as the teacher. I can see myself just grabbing the phone, then I'd probably be in trouble, right? What the hell is a teacher supposed to do if things have broken down so that you can't exert control? And if you think teachers shouldn't have control, then, well, then you're an anarchist. I don't know. I mean, obviously you need some control. The other students in the class are supposed to be learning something. So nobody's helping me here. I'm serious. I don't get it. And I know there's a lot of trouble in schools relying on police. I mean, we never relied on police. The vice principal was more than enough. So they criminalize activity which shouldn't be criminal. But that kid should have been able somehow to be removed, I think. And I don't feel all that sorry for this kid. She was not killed. She was not horribly harmed. I really don't. She's an asshole. She's certainly a badly behaved young woman who has no respect for authority. Okay? That's what she is. But I'm a teacher. I'm trying to do my job. She's an asshole. So I ain't crying any major tears about her. I really am not. The cop goes too far. It just looks way too wowie. Jeez. But what if he had... So what do you do if she doesn't move? Does everybody in the rest of the class, you just go on and ignore her? Is that what we're supposed to do? Because that's sort of like ignoring an elephant in the room, and it's also a diminution of the teacher's authority. Well, no one's going to help me. Okay, fine. I mean, I don't get it. And Margie's pointing out something that also was very weird. I agree with you, Margie. The weird thing was how the other students, they barely even looked up. They were like, I'm looking at a student in this frame, and the cop's already dumping the girl on the floor, and this other student is just like, doing which leads me to believe, what, does this kind of thing happen a lot in these classrooms? I don't know. Very strange. But in this case, find myself feeling I feel for the authority people. I feel for the teacher. I feel for the principal. I feel for what were they supposed. Then what can you do? You can't touch them. We can't touch the kids. So what do you do? I don't know what we do. The fact that the Justice Department Civil Rights Division, along with the FBI and the United States Attorney for South Carolina, all saying they will look into the incident, I find absurd. They don't have no bigger fish to fry. All right. There, I've said my politically incorrect piece. And I'm sticking with it. Margie says, if you look at it deeply, why is she fucked up? I don't know why she's fucked up. I don't know. But you'll have the inmates running the asylum if you do not allow teachers to have authority in their classrooms. Chuck writes, regarding the classroom video, my first reaction was to blame the guard. I couldn't understand any situation that would justify his actions. And perhaps I still feel this way. What really surprised me was the reaction of my wife, a meek and mild teacher's assistant. She was nearly okay. She's like me. She was nearly okay with the action of the guard and went on to explain to me that it's getting harder and harder for students to be students. She said the level of classroom disruption has gone too far, and teachers are often in a position they simply cannot teach. Yeah, that's where I'm coming from, too. That's where I'm coming from, too. My real sense is screw this kid. I would have hauled off and punched her myself back in the day. We got a call. Hello?
Hey, Lynn, this is Roger.
Hi, Roger.
I have asked this question a lot, and I don't think I've ever gotten a response from anybody on this. Why are cell phones allowed in school in the first place?
Well, there you go, too. Well, I'm sure they probably have a thing where they are not allowed out during a class, and so she was asked to put her phone away. That's what started this. But yeah, are you suggesting they should, walk in the front door of the school and everybody puts their cell phone in in the principal's office or something? I don't know.
Well, I mean, at least in the locker, and if I'm an administrator or teacher, whoever, I don't want to see a cell phone until before the first bell rings and not until after the bell rings. Because, I mean, I went to school in the 60s and 70s, and we've gotten in big trouble just bringing gum. I
know. Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You and I can no more imagine a student refusing to put something away that a teacher has taught. I mean, I just can't even conceive of it. And back in our day, if a student did do that, they would easily suffer exactly that kind of physical consequence. They would have been just tossed out of the room. I don't know.
I mean, I'm with you. I agree. The cop did not look good, and maybe there was probably something else he could have done. But man, how frustrating as not just a cop, but a teacher. I mean, if my kid did that, I don't know what I would do. I mean, and it's like, you know what? Keep the cell phones out of the classroom. I mean, off their persons. And then if a parent really needs to get in touch with the school, they do it what they did in the old days. Call the office. The office buzzes down to an emergency, and it's the way how it's done. If the kid gets sick, you go to the nurse's office. They do the same thing. It's not that.
No, but you know what's going to happen? So what happens now is this kid is going to be seen as a victim. Her parents will probably be suing the school district and all these things. They might even make quite a bit of money off this. And the message that will be sent to other students is, if you play your cards right, you could actually, you could end up making money and being famous. And
well, you know what? Maybe this type of thing will lead right into the legal fear factor, so to speak. Well, to avoid potential legal problems, cell phones will no longer be allowed in the school. I mean, just from it's like we got the school districts have to maybe do that from that standpoint, because that's what everything. No dogs on the property, no this, no that. Well, no cell phones because we got to avoid situations like this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't believe that's just. Is it not talked about at all?
I don't know.
Does no school district ever say no cell phones?
I don't know. I'm sure they have. I know my brother is a college professor who talks about how no student ever is looking at him, ever, anymore. They're all got their heads down. They might, they're on their laptops. They're like sort of it might as well be stenographers. They're taking down every word he's saying or something. But they're not engaged and they're not in the moment. It's sad. These goddamn gizmos. But I found it interesting that I have not heard one person say what I said. I personally have not heard one person say it, which of course means that, here's what my guess is, a lot of people are thinking what I'm thinking, but they're afraid to say it. They're afraid to say it because it is not, as I said, politically correct. Right now, right?
I agree with you. I agree. Asshole, you're an asshole. And she was 18, so she's an adult asshole. How about that? If you want to get really technical.
Yeah.
But when the parents and or lawyers go on their little media circuit that is going to happen, I hope that somebody pushes really hard. Well, why didn't your kid put the phone away?
Yeah, you didn't teach your kid to listen to the teacher. What the teacher said.
I would like
what
the
is
media to like push as hard against the parents and this kid as hard as this cop's going to get pushed against. Who
well, he's
everything he gets.
Yeah, well, I don't know. He's going to lose his job, and frankly, I don't know. So what could he have done? He's obviously a strong guy. He could have picked her up. I mean, if he wanted to remove her from the class, then what is it he was supposed to do? He didn't have to fling her, I guess. So he could have what? absolutely picked her up in the chair and walked her in the chair out the door. I don't know. What the hell was he supposed to? What do you do?
Does he call a partner in and they do a formal arrest procedure? I mean, that's the only thing I guess is the only thing.
But then you could say, you believe this? You're getting arrested because you wouldn't put your phone down? I mean, that sounds like crazy. It seems like we painted ourselves into some corner where we can't handle something in a reasonable way because force is not allowed, and yet lack of any respect for others and authority and fellow students is there's no way to I don't know, handle that anymore. I don't know what you do. I don't know. My heart goes out to any teacher. My heart just goes out to you. God help you.
Oh, well, you know, with the lawsuit, I think maybe it helps. I don't know if this will help or not. The school should expel her for the rest of the year, automatic F, and then when the lawsuit comes, that'll be plea bargain. Okay, she can come back, but you drop the lawsuit.
Well, we'll see.
I mean, but I get the impression if this is the way she behaves, maybe there's not much of a parental authority.
Right. That's my guess too. I don't know.
I mean,
anyway, I don't know, Roger. Here we are, two liberals talking about the good old days. All right. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Huh. Yeah. Here's somebody. Is this Laura? 1950s parochial school. One nun, 50 to 60 students in one classroom. You could hear a pin drop, right? No teacher's aides. I don't know. I have no answers, but I do have that question. What the fuck were they supposed to do? What were they supposed to do? And then to make something racial out of it, that I don't know. It looked to me like the teacher was the teacher a black male? There seemed to be yeah. So the teacher is African American. He's the one who called for help. The cop, by the way, his girlfriend is African American. So you get a little in difficult territory if you say, well, he's some racist. I don't know. His girlfriend's I don't know. Who knows? We have a call. Hello, caller.
Hey, Lynn, it's Mike in D.C.
Hi.
So I'm a professional teacher. And the problem happened way before that cop ever walked in the room.
Mm-hmm.
A large part of a teacher's job is crowd control.
It does seem
period.
To be. Yes.
I know people think any idiot can do this. So just send somebody in there who knows mathematics and they'll be able to teach it. But teaching is a skill that costs a lot of money to acquire, and one that I'm not willing to give for free. So high schools and grade schools, those students pretty much are giving their skill for free. And the really good teachers, like myself, if I can be modest, is I go somewhere else and teach. So if we want this problem to be resolved, you have to pay teachers more than $20,000, $25,000 a year to teach.
Well, God, they get a lot more than that here in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's one of the highest paid school districts in the country.
To start?
Let me tell you, teachers here are making $60,000, $70,000.
In the public schools.
But
getting into the public school was a problem.
Yeah, that's tough.
But my point was not how much money they make, but how difficult that task is to do. To control unruly kids.
See, I could not. I could no more. I could no more do it because, as I said, I would end up on a videotape. I would end up on a videotape clocking some kid. I bet I would.
I taught a summer class at Carlo when I was in undergrad, and I taught the same class on Monday, Wednesday, and a different class on Tuesday, Thursday. On Monday, Wednesday, they were kids, 13, 10, whatever. And so I had them push the chairs away, and we sat in a circle, blah, blah, blah. And it was a disaster. So I went and called my aunt, who's a professional educator. She won the Apple Award. And I said, what did I do wrong? And she's like, you're trying to be their friend.
That's right.
You're not their friend.
That's right.
Nuns learned that they didn't smile until after Christmas. So you can't.
You do have to have authority, right? I mean, that's like step one.
And another way you control it is you don't control it. You get the other kids in the room to peer pressure her to act appropriately.
Right.
But that takes, again, skill. Not something you're going to learn in a year or 2 or 3. And I bet you any money nobody wants to teach in this school.
I don't know.
So we'll throw money away at security guards, but we won't pay teachers who have the skill to do it. And by the way, I make twice that in D.C., not teaching children.
Not teaching. Gotcha.
So why should I teach children?
Right. All right.
And then the parents, when my aunt calls and says,
yeah.
Hey, your kid did such and such, and she teaches in a Catholic school.
They argue.
Very fancy one in Cranberry. They give her a hard time.
Yeah, that's true. It's all true. And it is a problem. I hear you.
So the problem was with that teacher.
Yeah, I hear you. Thank you.
And he could have pushed that chair out of the room.
He could have just pushed it.
Pushed that chair out of the room.
But, you know, he's afraid, too. He's afraid. They're all scared. And with everybody with their cell phones, too. I mean, I just don't know. People are terrified.
People were looking at him. That was the problem. That people were looking at him to solve the problem, when that problem should have been solved by that teacher. Not today, not yesterday, but on day one.
Yeah.
To lay the law down.
Yeah.
This is how this is going to work, and anybody else, get out.
Well, Mike, I didn't know you were such a hard ass. Okay.
Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. Beth writes, I have several friends who are in public education in upper income and lower income districts. After hearing so many of their collective stories, I agree with you about this kid. This kid was an asshole. The only option educators or administrators have in an instance like this is to call the local authorities. I'm okay with the first portion of the video because this kid was wrong and had no respect for authority. The part where this cop was wrong, and I am sure will lose in a civil case, is when he threw her. Yeah, from just the center, flying. I bet after this instance, when kids are told to put away their cell phones in that school, they now are going to put them away, at least this week. Yeah. Henry writes, the school district has already tried and convicted this policeman. They have made a statement that his actions are not in line with the standards of the district. They have suspended him without pay. He's already guilty without a trial, and the media has put their rubber stamp. I agree. He's gone. He's finished toast. Well, I hate to say it, I have more sympathy for him than for the girl. Well, thank you for letting me come out on this issue. And I just, again, can't imagine. Can't imagine. So what we got? I'm sorry. Okay. What else? What else I got? Anybody else on that? Because otherwise I was done. I am getting... What is with this computer? So you can tell when political reporters are, don't have much to talk about anymore, they start talking about how, generally speaking, in an election, it's the tallest people that win, that height is an extraordinary advantage. And it is. It is. So do you know who the tallest person on stage tonight's going to be? I don't even know if he's still in it. Is he still there? The tallest one doesn't have a chance, and that's former New York Governor Pataki. He's 6'4". But right behind him, and I didn't realize he was this tall, is Trump. Trump's a tall man. He's 6'3". Big guy. The tiny ones are, let's see, Lindsey Graham is about 5'8". Rand Paul is about 5'7" or 8". Jeb Bush is tall. He is, in fact, the tallest Bush son. and I guess he's about 6'3". But a majority of American presidents have been taller than the average man of their era. And in wartime, especially, a country wants a big man. Did you know that FDR was 6'2"? Well, you never never saw him standing up. But yeah, he was a tall guy. That's very tall for then. 6'2". Lincoln, obviously, the tallest president. And even Woodrow Wilson in World War I was 5'11", if you're paying attention. So what does that mean, though? It doesn't mean anything. And Carly Fiorina is taller than Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton is just like a Clinton, I'll tell you. You can't quite nail her down on how tall she is. I mean, about 4 years ago, she said she was 5'6". Now she's apparently 5'7". But she doesn't look that well. I don't know if Bill's 6. What's Bill? He looks to be about 6'2", 6'3", huh? How tall's Bill? Sandy writes about the students. Lynn, I agree with you. 6'2", Clinton? Okay. I agree with you. The student should have put the phone away. I also think this wasn't the first time there was a problem with this student. Although I saw somewhere it was written, who knows if it's true or not, that this kid was generally not a troublemaker and was quiet and sort of, so who knows? Who knows? What the kid did is indefensible. I mean, given the status a student has in relationship to a teacher. You're asked to do something. It's a perfectly reasonable request, and to absolutely refuse to do it when the principal comes, that is real flouting of, and demand some action. The problem we're having is that the action looked really horrific. But I heard the girl was not harmed. So, I don't know. I don't pretend to know. I'm going to keep saying I don't know, because that's the truth. Well, I do know this. I am going to try to watch the debate tonight. Is it like 2 hours long? Oh, dear God. Okay, I'll try to watch it, and then we can talk about it tomorrow. I'll be in and out, maybe keeping an eye on the World Series, though, too. Okay? That's what I'm going to do. All right. That's it for me. Thank you very much for giving me some feedback on this issue. I appreciate it. I was feeling very alone. So, see you tomorrow. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.